Oh, so there's a voice that says recording. We are recording now. Um, this is so new to me. So I'm doing an interview today on my channel, and I have a guest, Andy Mascola, who I appeared twice on. He invited me very graciously twice onto his podcast. So I wanted to introduce you guys to him as well and talk a little about his podcasting experiences. So welcome to the show, Andy.
Thank you, Adam. Hello, Savage Land viewers.
Savage Land. That's
I'm a
love
Savage
that.
Land fan.
It's this is very surreal for me to just be doing interviews like this. I don't know if you're aware of this, probably not, but when I first began the channel, like in 2016, 2017, I did 3 interviews in person, not through Zoom or anything, and um, I was just so nervous and like because I was still new to video and like now I just like I don't care. It's like whatever. It's just have fun and I'm glad you're here. Um, you've done a lot of interviews on. Let's take a step back. So your podcast is called "People Are the Enemy," and the first question I have for you was, where did that name come from?
Oh, that's a great question, and there's a fun story behind it. It's not the greatest name for a show, obviously. I don't, I don't know if I'm doing myself any favors by hosting a show called "People Are the Enemy," but there is a reason it's called that and a fun story behind it, and I'll tell you that right now. I was in a Goodwill store as I want to go to because I like looking for old ephemera and collectibles, specifically vinyl, and you find a lot of awful vinyl in a Goodwill. There's a
Right.
lot of Mantovani. There's a lot of Engelbert Humperdinck. And forgive me if you're a viewer of Adam's Spine program and you love this music, I sincerely apologize.
You're offending all my
I
Engelbert
hope you
Humperdinck fans.
I hope you listen to a lot of music, meaning a lot of other things. But you know, if you like those artists, that's fine. But you'll find a lot of that in a Goodwill, specifically in a Goodwill in New England. Anyway, I was looking through the records and I happened upon this one record, and at first glance, it 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 appeared to say "People Are the Enemy," and I looked at the art for it, and on the cover were these two happy, smiling, beautiful, lovely coiffed people of that looked like maybe the photo was taken in the 70s. And I thought, boy, what a strange name for an album with such beautiful, happy looking people on it. And on second look, it didn't say "People Are the Enemy." It said "People Are the Energy," and it was an Up With People album. And and I thought, boy,
Up with people?
that's funny. Up With People, yeah. Do you know what Up With People is?
No, no. I'm gonna look up the cover and I'll put it on the screen so that people are know what you're talking
Oh,
about. But I'm
oh yeah, you can
fascinated by
you can
this.
find the album. It's literally on Spotify. The album, "People Are the Energy,"
Okay.
and I thought to myself, oh boy, I completely misread this album title. And I thought, but what a great title for something. "People Are the Enemy." It's kind of compelling and kind of it's a little mischievous, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
a little dangerous sounding. And so I what I did was I took a photo of the album and I put it immediately on Twitter, on my Twitter feed, and I said, I initially thought this album was called "People Are the Enemy." It's not, but what a great name for a thing. If anybody wants it, take it. And immediately folks said, oh, that would be a great name for a band, or that would be a great name for a book. And I said, it's yours. Go with it. Take it. And what happened was about a year after that, I looked into it to see if anybody had taken it, and nobody had. And I thought I should do something with it because, again, it is odd and a little mischievous and a little dangerous and kind of fun too, and kind of funny. So I decided to title that my podcast "People Are the Enemy."
Well, I think by appearing on it and by you hosting it, I think we're both on some FBI list or CIA list now. We
You know
sound
what's
like.
funny? It's like what
But
drives me crazy is like when you look it up, and you can do this, listener or viewer rather. You're gonna have to forgive me. I have a habit. I'm not a YouTuber at all or a vlogger, and I have a whole new respect for the genre of folks who do this because to get this set up the way it is currently took an immense amount of work. So to Adam, I give you all the credit in the world, and anybody else who has a YouTube channel or a vlog, well done. And to be able to continually put this together, good for you. It's nothing that I want to do regularly. But I was going to say, shoot, Adam, I completely forgot what I was going to say. Oh, I was going to say, if you look up People Are the Enemy on Apple Podcasts, at least when I do, I'm paired with the most reprehensible characters imaginable. And I don't want to get into them because they don't deserve any more attention. But needless to say, there are people who I don't necessarily agree with ideologically, politically. Yeah. But that's what comes up when you look up People Are the Enemy. I don't know if it's Apple's algorithm or what. Their titles are completely different from People Are the Enemy, but for some reason, they've kind of sidled my program in with these terrible people.
Well, maybe you'll be subverting the current. You'll be like you'll be converting people to, because when you actually listen to your podcast, it's not about destroying humanity at all. It's much more
no
the opposite. Yeah.
No, I honestly, I sincerely like people. I think that's kind of the ironic part about it, and I enjoy talking to people. And Adam, thank you so much for giving me your time on the program. You're a wonderful guest, and I look forward to having you on in the future. Well, but I sincerely like people. I don't believe People Are the Enemy. It's an odd show, and it has an odd name. And again, maybe it's kind of ironic because I do love talking to strangers, and I do love people.
Well, you have had a lot of guests, and that's I think both your show, your podcast, and we talked about I don't know how you say his name, Noah Van Sciver, his YouTube channel. He does this all the time. Basically, he does Zoom interviews like a few times a week, and he also does this thing where he has I don't know there's like websites where you can let anybody. It's like a radio call-in show, and he'll have like 7 strangers just randomly on his show, and he's like trying to like organize a conversation with. It's I don't want to do that, but I like this, talking to people one-on-one. I think that's a little more manageable for me at this point. But I admire your ability because you've had a lot of guests, right? How many guests would you say you've had?
Oh, gee, maybe about 50, about 50 different people.
See, that's where I want to go with my channel.
That's what?
That's where I'd like to go with this YouTube channel is more interaction. Oh, really? I think it's more fun. It's more interesting. And every week, that way I don't have to come up with, an idea. I just show up and let you talk. It's a lot more convenient for me. I mean, I made like 10 questions, but like otherwise, wherever we want to talk about. And, normally like, I feel like I could, like chill out and relax a little bit because I'm new to this. This was like a little work for me. I had to set up lights and I put a microphone and but I'm hoping that it becomes more, like I think at this point in your podcast, like I've been listening, and the other day you had one where your neighbor called in and it was just impromptu and you just included him in the podcast, and like I thought that was cool. Like I'm very relaxed. Like if somebody knocked on my front door, I'm like, hey, come in and be on the YouTube channel, whatever.
It was a spur of the moment decision. I had my phone volume turned off, and I saw the call coming in, and I was thinking to myself, and I'll give this away now, that I didn't have a whole lot of things to talk about on last week's episode, and I'd had no plan to have my friend happen to call me. But when he did, I was almost thankful. I thought, and then having had that fellow on just the week before, literally sitting beside me, I thought, well, folks who listen to the show will know who this person is. And I thought, well, what if I take the call? And we'll just see what he has to say about Mother's Day. So I appreciate you listening, first of all. And that was a happy accident because he did have some thoughts on birth and mothers, and he sounded good, and we had a lovely conversation. In all sincerity, he's a fellow I talk to pretty regularly. He's a good friend, and it could have been something horrible. It could have been, God knows what it could have been. And I don't say that because that is kind of a normal happening in his life. I just say that because he and I are good friends, and I've helped him out when he's been in trouble, and he's helped me out when I've been in trouble. There was a time I got a call from him, and he said, my car's broken down and blah, 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 you know?
Yeah.
So I got up and helped him take care of that. So literally it could have been anything. And so felt very fortunate that he was just calling to say, hello, how are you doing? And that worked out very well.
Yeah. Well, you don't really do editing. You don't really do editing on your show. Editing. So like, no. I'm not. I know how to video edit. So like, if you say something you want me to take out, I can always just cut it out and say, oh, we had technical difficulties.
One of my favorite moments that I think about a lot. I had Joe Piccone on the show, he's an acting teacher from Pennsylvania, and a writer, and he does amazing impressions. And he's done some as call-in characters on my show, and he's fantastic. But the first time he and I spoke, he burped in the middle of a conversation. He said, "Oh, you'll just edit that out." And I said, "No, I don't edit out anything."
No burp editing. Absolutely. At which point
he kind of said, "Oh," and I kind of caught him off guard. And I thought to myself, I probably should have told Joe this before we started recording, but I did not. And I caught that moment, and I kind of think about that all the time. And I kind of love that moment, that kind of spontaneity. I think that's kind of, the authenticity of shows. I think I was talking about your show yesterday because I was telling a friend that I was going to be speaking with you. And I said, there's a lot of YouTube programs and a lot of YouTube people that I've seen that, it feels very contrived. It feels very set up, and you can tell that they've edited out all the blinks that, in their eyes. It seems very unnatural, and they look very good, like too good almost, Right. And this is no reflection on you, Adam. You're a very handsome man. But your show is, and one of the appeals for me to your program is that, first of all, you're very intelligent, and you've got as your viewers know, you explore a lot of esoteria that not a lot of people will look into, and you delve deep into it, which I admire and I love. And you're super, super authentic, and you seem very real and it's like watching a friend. And I kind of love that. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I continue to watch your program. And I'm honored to be on it, by the way. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. And I try to be authentic, but like, I'm always questioning whether I am being authentic. Like, and sometimes I do, I act, or, I'm acting or whatever, but to me, that's kind of an authentic quality too, because that's like a part of my personality as well. It's like these different pieces of personality. You can be different characters and stuff, but
I think fortunately they're good characters, and fortunately you have a great sense of humor, and your edits are always clever and fun and funny, and I will literally laugh out loud sometimes.
Well, I like this though. No edits. I like this format too. I like the mix. I want to do all these different things. But back to your guests, because I am looking for guests right now. Like, what has been your method for looking for guests? Are they like people you know through friends, or is it just people you admire online and you just ask them, or what? How do you get guests?
Oh, well, most of the folks, I shouldn't say most. A lot of folks I've met via social media.
Yeah.
I'm a huge music fan, so I'm constantly listening to new music, exploring artists, falling in love with new artists, and a lot of times I'll find a band via Bandcamp, just searching for the style of genre music that I like, and I'll find an album and I'll fall in love with it and think to myself, is there enough here to have a 20-25 minute conversation with these folks or this person, and then maybe play one of their songs, and might they be interested in doing that? And I'll compose an email requesting that maybe they come on the show, and I'll help them promote their album, and we can talk about their what they're doing musically and play one of their songs. And a lot of times they agree to me. A lot of times they agree to do that. A lot of folks I've invited on, have been completely ghosted on. Yeah. And I get that too. I understand,
that doesn't matter though. I'm not afraid of that.
Oh, no. It's rejection. Rejection stinks. It absolutely does. And it hurts, and it's hard for sure. At least for me. I know some people maybe not so much, but I hate being rejected. But I think to answer your question, there was a time when I felt a lot of pressure to have a new guest on every week.
Yeah.
And to kind of put a point on what you were saying earlier, when you have a guest, it is a little bit easier because they're doing a lot of the heavy lifting. If they're a talker,
Right.
and if they're a gregarious type personality. If you get somebody who's kind of quiet, it might be a little harder. That's happened to me too. I've dealt with both kinds of people, and I've had to be ready to speak with both kinds of people, perhaps not having heard them in an interview scenario prior. But I think in the last year and a half, 2 years, I've really just thought to myself, boy, my favorite interviews that I've done have all been with people that I'm really, really genuinely interested in and genuinely care about and generally have and sincerely have a passion for what they've done or what they're doing. And I should really try to only speak with those kinds of people because that makes for a better and more interesting program overall. And that's what I found. So that's kind of what I've tried to be doing lately. This isn't to say that I haven't enjoyed speaking with other people in the past that maybe I only had a casual passing interest in, because a lot of those conversations, wonderful things happened, and I was able to speak with some very interesting people, but because I've made this decision to kind of again just focus on folks that I have a genuine, sincere interest in and feel like I can ask enough questions that I'm have an interest in hearing an answer to. I've had to kind of, as I put it, tap dance through the fire on episodes where it's just like I go solo. There was an episode 2 weeks ago where I literally didn't know what to do for a show.
Is it the ice cream episode?
I sure would like some ice cream. And I literally turned on the mic and then I just said, I'm going to try something different. I'm not going to have play the theme song, and you and I are just going to go get ice cream, meaning you, the listener, and myself. And fortunately, it worked out really well. I brought a mobile studio and I put it in my car. I literally had it set up on my lap. You can hear me start the car, and you could literally hear the door opening and closing and me walking into a 7-Eleven and going through the freezer and it was timed just perfectly. I had only 14 minutes left on my Libsyn account, which is the podcast hosting service I use. And it literally just like, I literally put on my sneakers and walked out the door and started my car and drove to a 7-Eleven, found a lovely flavor of Ben & Jerry's that I had never tried, and was able to get the ice cream open and take a couple bites and talk about it. And that was the whole show. And I was very fortunate that worked out. That may have not worked out, but
no, I thought it was a good episode.
So again,
I liked.
Thank you.
The clerk in that 7-Eleven doesn't realize he's like a world famous. He had this guest appearance. That was your guest that week.
Yeah, he sort of was, wasn't he? And then there was, I don't know if you can hear this, but there was a lovely woman, who held the door open for me, on the way out. And
I don't recall that.
Thank you. And I held the door. She said, well, thank you. And we had, this nice little moment. And I thought, well, she has no idea, obviously, that she's now on my podcast.
Now she's super famous.
It was very sweet. Now she's super famous. But no, that was a fun moment. And so again, if I'm unable to get a guest, or I'm strapped for a guest that week, one thing I've had to train myself to do is to be a good talker and try to watch my ums and uhs, like I just did now, without scripting it. So to be able to just kind of talk, I have a great admiration for anybody who can turn on a mic and monologue and not kind of have to feel like they have to fill in the spaces with ums and uhs, because obviously there's some nervousness that is tied to that kind of there's one behavior.
Yeah. This morning I went back and listened to the very first episode that you did. And
oh no, I think I played the piano with my feet on that episode.
No, you had your guest, the alien, who I can probably guess who the alien is, but I'm just going to leave it at the alien. And
Mhm.
the format was a little different. No song, 10 minutes, and so it was very different format, but very high energy and interesting. You could see that the show has clearly evolved and changed through time. So you've been at it for like 3 years now, right?
Yes, yeah. It literally started that first episode that I recorded. I recorded it. I think it was New Year's Eve, 2018,
Yeah.
and
So
literally I think it went up on January 1st, 2018. So I think I recorded it just before midnight. I'm pretty sure that on the TV that evening, and I was like the countdown, the Times Square deal and everything.
yeah.
And I think you can sometimes hear that in the background of that 10-minute episode. And I was going to say, there's another, now I'm conscious of it. Yeah. It was, to be honest, the whole thing was thrown together very haphazardly. I literally watched a YouTube tutorial on how to make a podcast that took maybe 20 minutes. And I thought like, oh, I can do all these things and see if this works out. And that's exactly what I did. That's how I came up with the first one. And then for whatever reason, I think just because I'm a compulsive type personality, I felt the need to do it every single week.
Well, that's good. I think
And
like getting
for
it
the rest of my
started
life.
is that's the important thing is getting it started. So like what would you? I see a lot of not just podcasts but YouTube channels, all kinds of things where people start and you could clearly see they're excited, but like 6 weeks later they give up, like they stop. So like what would you recommend to people who want to start a podcast? Like what how do you get that inertia
Well,
going?
I can only speak for myself and talk about the kinds of programming, whether it's podcasts or whether it's writers or whether it's artists, meaning literal artists like a comic book artist or a musician artist, who I have a fascination with long career arcs and how art changes and how
Hmm.
the personality of the person making the art changes. And all I could think to myself was, there are going to be moments or there are going to be weeks when this is not something that you're absolutely gung-ho, super happy and excited to be able to do. Because number one, there's not a lot of extrinsic reward to it. It's all mostly intrinsic. If somebody discovers one of my books and decides to buy one through hearing me talk about it, that makes me super happy. That makes my day. That doesn't always happen, and that rarely happens, I should say. So I knew there were going to be weeks when I wouldn't feel like doing it, or I'd feel like there wasn't a whole lot of interesting things happening for me to talk about, or a person there to work with me or work off of. And I just thought, like, this is just like any career for anybody, because again, radio personalities, late night talk show personalities, these ladies and gentlemen who have to do that every single day, whether it's like
Right.
um like Wanda Sykes, who had a show, or Conan O'Brien, who has a show for the time being, who have to do this night in, night out. And I thought to myself, for sure, that their program has changed over time, but moreover, they've changed. And there are, I'm sure, we're like, I remember seeing Conan O'Brien show episodes where there was a writer's strike, or there was they wouldn't get a guest for whatever reason. I forget why. And he would just do something like, he'd take off his wedding ring and spin it on his desk and see how long it would spin for. And there was a time when Kumail Nanjiani, you know who Kumail Nanjiani is? Am I saying his name right?
I do not know
Kumail?
that
He's
name.
a comedian and an actor, and I believe I'm saying it right. Kumail Nanjiani was a no-show. And Conan came out and said, our guest tonight is a no-show. So he literally sat on the edge of the stage and talked to the audience. And it
Yeah.
was one of the best things I've ever seen. And it was wonderful. And I thought, like, there's some kind of magic in like happy accidents like that. That's kind of wonderful too. So I thought to myself, so there'll be times when things aren't so great in terms of being able to provide content. And I know there's been shows when I planned to talk glowingly about something that I was in love with and was very passionate about, and then something horrible would happen to me, or I would hit a wall emotionally. And then I'd still think to myself, well, I still owe myself and whoever decides to listen to this craziness a program. And I remember one time I just turned on the mic and said I had all these nice things to talk about, but I'm not in a good place right now and I'm kind of down. And I just talked about that. So I suppose that it's only because, again, of being such a fan of folks who do the same wonderful thing, whether it's night in and night out or year upon year, whether it's making a film every year or writing a book, or sometimes in some cases 2 or 3 books a year. So there's some authors who do that. They continue to do it, good or bad or indifferent, and they, for whatever reason, they're compelled, and that arc of their artistry is fascinating. And I could only say that perhaps maybe somebody would find my art fascinating too.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping this has been kind of a test interview, because this is the first time I've really recorded with Zoom, but I'm hoping we can have you on again to talk about your books. And at this point, I have not read any, but I'm hoping I can read one. What would you recommend as the best one to start with? The most recent one?
I should say, Adam, that I know, having watched your book reviews, and they're wonderful and they're very comprehensive.
Don't put yourself down. I feel like you're going to put yourself down. I don't want you to do that. Just tell me which one to read.
No. I just say you're a fan of very fine literature and very
you're putting yourself down. Just cerebral, tell me which one to read.
I should say cerebral. No, you're well read. You're well read. And if I think that
I'm gonna go with the most recent one. I know the title. Where Are You Now, Randy Dow? Wait, I can't.
Yeah,
sorry.
Randy Dow is.
I'm gonna go with that one. Then.
It's okay. Well, feel free. I'd say that I'm very proud of all my books. They're all very different.
But do you have a favorite?
I guess suppose in talking about a career arc or a changing style over time, I've certainly experienced that in the 10 years that I've been doing this. My personal favorite, and it's my wife's favorite too, and other folks seem to enjoy it also, is Kissing Oblivion. And I can only say that I think it's because I was being very authentic with the character. The main character was experiencing things that I was certainly experiencing at that time. And the ending had one of those kind of, I hate to say Seinfeldian, because it wasn't comedic at all, or it was darkly comedic, but sort of like where all the points kind of neatly came together at the end. You know what I mean? In the Seinfeld episode, how there's these 3 or 4 different elements happening and they all kind of coalesce at the end of every episode. And I was able to make that happen with that story. And it was kind of wonderful, a wonderful feeling for sure. So that one is a personal favorite, Kissing Oblivion. I'm really proud of that one. I'm proud of all of them though. And I think comparatively, or to talk about an arc, Where Are You Now, Randy Dow, which is my latest that came out in late summer of last year, is comparatively heartwarming and sweet because it's written from the perspective of an 11-year-old girl. Whereas a lot of times my stories are written from the perspective of a cynical or depressed man. And obviously, you know what you get when you read that, you know. So not that there's anything wrong with those books, but that's our bell, isn't it, Adam?
Yeah, let me take a look at my questions though. We definitely have to have you on again. I feel like this is recording okay, but I don't know if I should test Zoom too much. I guess I want to get one quick question in before we end. What advice would you have for somebody starting a podcast in 2021?
Oh, gee, in 2021, I say be yourself, do you know, and have fun. And I'd say learn to monologue for sure. If you want to put any kind of pressure on yourself, it's learn to be able to tell a story. And I'll tell you, one of the key things that I found that work really well with a podcast is have a lot of subjects. Even if your podcast is going to be super short, like 10 minutes, like I started doing just 10-minute shows.
Yeah.
But have like 7 or 8 different topics, and that way you can just jump from one to the other, because listener will be consistently entertained, thinking like, what's he going to talk about next? Or what's she going to talk about next? Or what are they going to talk about next? So yeah, those are my advices. Learn to monologue, watch the ums and uhs. I know it's hard, and have a lot of topics
Nice.
ready. Even if you just stick to one for an entire program, have some there just in case you find yourself one drying up on you, so you can just bounce to the next one, and that'll
Nice.
be entertaining.
Nice. Well, I'll definitely have a link below to People Are the Enemy so people can check it out and
Oh, I appreciate it.
and all your
Thank you.
stuff, your books, etc. And yeah, this was fun. I hope we can we'll do a talk again with talk about your books or other aspects. I have tons of questions that we didn't even get to, so we have plenty more to talk about.
I
And
appreciate it,
yeah,
Adam.
so
You're my favorite YouTuber. You
oh,
are,
cool.
sincerely, and to be invited to do your program, and for this one to be the first YouTube program I've ever been on. It's an absolute sincere honor. I'm a huge Adam Savage fan, and I regularly watch Savage Land, and I sincerely have gone back through and watched,
Oh my God.
well, all the painting ones, those early ones, the manga painting. I to be honest with you, I didn't have a whole lot of interest, so I honestly skipped those. But anytime
No,
Adam's
I'm
talking
not
about
offended at all.
reviewing books, oh, okay, good. But sincerely, I am absolutely honored to be able to have spent time with you this way, and your
Cool.
viewers and folks, you're watching Adam. Please continue to do so. He's probably the smartest. He's definitely the smartest YouTuber I've ever encountered, and he's super authentic. And those things
Are you saying that
are
YouTubers
very,
are generally
very,
stupid?
I wouldn't say they're dumb. I think that you're just better educated than most people, and I think a lot of intelligent people would be apprehensive to put themselves on camera, and I think that I'm glad you're doing it. I'm glad, I think you and I have a lot of similar folks in common as far as our interests. I know that my initial draw to your show and how I discovered you was via
Momus,
this
yeah.
fella right here, Momus, and Momus does what he does better than anybody else, in my opinion. And he's super intelligent and super entertaining and
Yeah.
funny. And he hits so many wonderful points that other quote unquote pop stars would never touch. And I think that's what makes him special and amazing. And so be thankful, viewers, be thankful for the intelligent people and the smart people who are willing to put themselves out there and make great entertainment for you, because we need that in the world.
Well, I think both you, I, and Momus are all, to use his the title of his autobiography, very niche in a lot of ways. So, but hopefully,
I think so. I'm sure we're niche.
I think we're kind of like somebody like Johann Sebastian Bach. In his lifetime, he was respected by other organists and so on, but he wasn't well known like among just like the average person. It wasn't until like later, like Felix Mendelssohn, these other guys really popularized him. So I feel like Momus, like he's like a little too smart for his era, and then like slowly people will catch up. But it'd be nice if if we all got some attention in this lifetime. That'd be cool.
I absolutely agree. And speaking of career arcs, Momus spans over 30 years, and I recommend exploring it. And the fact that he continues to put out an album dedicatedly every single year, and he always explores new topics. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's a great world to delve into. If you're tired of what you're getting, definitely take a look into that.
Nice. All right. Well, I guess we'll end it here, and let me know, people that are watching this, what do you think of this new format, and so on. And I'm pretty sure I'll try this again with. I would like to. Oh yeah, if other creative people want to be on the show, just contact me. I'm looking for people that release stuff regularly, like whatever format. I'm open to any ideas. So yeah, and I guess we'll end it here.
Thank you so much for having me, Adam.
Yeah, thank you, Andy.
It was a great conversation.